So here, a brief intro into training for trainers on facilitating individual and group learning competence. In total, we're planning to implement 9 courses for trainers until the end of 2027. And this is the first one that we're organizing for trainers. This training course and the whole process that Nectaris, together with its partners, embarked on since the last year is related to the European training strategy. And European training strategy was a lot defined by the Salto Training and Cooperation in cooperation with national agencies of Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps. The idea of the training strategy is to improve recognition and quality of youth work by dealing with kind of 3 target groups. First of all, institutions, including national agencies, and then in youth work field, looking mainly at youth workers and trainers. Yeah. And our initiative, our accreditation until the end of the program is focusing on 2 target groups. So modular courses for youth workers and modular courses for trainers. And you are being invited to the training for trainers, modular training. And we call it modular because that's what European training strategy is calling for. They say to increase the quality of youth work, we need qualified professionals, qualified youth workers, and also trainers. And European training strategy defined competence frameworks for youth workers and trainers. For each competence area, we created a training course. So that's why we're gonna have in total 9 courses for youth workers and 9 courses for trainers. You can find more about it in the European Training Strategy website. Perhaps my colleagues can just drop a link in the chat where you can find more about the whole strategy and also about the competence models, both for youth workers and trainers there. Yeah. So now we're looking closer into just one competence out of more competences. And this is so-called competence area on facilitating individual and group learning. And the objectives that you saw in the call are really competences within this competence area. So our training is very directly linked to that competence area and has smaller parts. Yeah. So during the training, we want to address the following things: is how to identify and meet the learning needs of trainees, how to facilitate group dynamics in the training context, how to create, adapt, use different methods, how to stimulate active participation of participants, how to promote creativity and problem solving within the training context, and also how we do the training in the environment that is inspiring to learn. So these are the major areas that we will be looking at, and how the program gonna look like. So probably in the program you already recognized all these elements there. But in terms of structure, the first 2 days will be really kind of setting the stage. So a bit of group building, and then exploring the competence area, and then looking at what does it mean to be a trainer? What does it mean to facilitate learning in the field of youth? Then we're gonna look at key principles that are important in designing training as learner-centeredness, and how do we facilitate based on the needs of the group? How do we deal with the group dynamic in the training, and how do we deal with the choice of methods? And the next 2 days will be a lot actually for you as a group to work in smaller teams So you will work you would work in a trainers team. That's what me, Nerijus, Snezana will be doing for this training. But you will be invited to work in smaller teams and actually prepare a training session on one of the areas that are related to facilitating learning. Yeah. So preparation for your training practice will happen there in the middle of the training. And on the fourth day, you will notice several areas like safe environment, creativity, facilitating and promoting engagement of participants. These are the training sessions that we expect you will be designing and implementing for your colleague trainers. Yeah. So you will not be only learning it theoretically, but also trying to put your ideas into practice. You will try the skill of designing or selecting methods, putting them in some kind of comprehensive um, training flow, and you will be dealing with real participants, real training dynamic that you are having. Yeah. And I know we do have diverse group. For some of you, just a starting point. For some of you, you're doing it that for years. And such moments usually also help to learn a lot together. I learned the most by doing training with more experienced colleagues, and we hope also this will be a good learning opportunity for you. And on the last day, we will be looking a bit, so how was this practice? What are the other areas that you want to go a bit deeper and to develop further your competences as a trainer? And we're going to be looking as well of what we're going to do next. So a few key features to mention about this particular training course, and probably you already took part in quite some training in the past. Here are the few things that I think defining these modular courses. So first of all, this training is, as I mentioned already, is in particular aligned with the competence model for trainers working internationally. And we're going to get to the model very, very soon. So it focuses primarily on international youth work context, because the European training strategy is also focusing mainly on international youth work. Yeah, you may have local youth work happening, you may do local training, but in this training course, we're gonna be looking what does it mean to be a trainer working on international level. Some competences probably would be very similar, what you need locally, but some are more specific. Then we put a lot of attention on recognition of your learning. So you will be earning open digital badges. You will be able to create your own portfolio of badges. You will receive, of course, Youth Pass because it's funded by Erasmus+. And we are preparing recognition guidelines, how you can use the credentials from this training further into your context. Yeah, so recognition is an important element of this whole training, and Neri is gonna explore this a little bit more. But providing credentials for your learning, it's an important element within this training, and you will actually have chance start earning open digital badges, being like a mini digital certificate already before the actual training start. It's not just a single course. It's a long-term development opportunity. And for example, we have Mihalis, who is already joining the second training. So you have also chance to continue learning if you feel you have a need to develop further in other competence areas. Because throughout these upcoming years, every year we're going to be proposing two trainings for trainers on specific competence areas. And it's important to know that it's not only few people here running this training, but also we have a large partnership behind. We have International Youth Work Trainers Guild as our key partner for the training of trainers, as well as partners of Cities of Learning Network, and few other partners who said, yes, we want to be part of this process of implementing these modular courses, and also sending participants from our organizations and from our communities. And you will notice that this training has several digital aspects, digital credentials, but also some digital tools that we will ask you already to use before arriving to the training. And that's what I will be sharing with you right now. Yeah. So we have a specialized platform called trainersappraisal.com. I will ask my colleagues to also paste the link in the chat. Trainers Appraisal is an online platform and service for trainers to self-assess, review, and develop your trainer competences online. So it's an online tool. And this tool was created in cooperation with International Youth Work Trainers Guild, with several partners involved. So it was designed by trainers and for trainers as well. And as this website says, that's what you can do. You can assess your competences. You can collect feedback from your colleagues, your participants, and your contractors. And based on the results, you can consciously plan your further learning. So that's what the platform is about. So these are the functions you can choose. And when you scroll down the website, you will see all the competences of trainers as they are defined in the European training strategy, competence model. And we'll be looking in particular at this competence called facilitating learning. And I'll jump straight into that competence. So once you click on it, you are able to start self-assessment of that competence. And self-assessment of that competence will be on several levels. And we're showing this because we're going to ask you to do it before arriving to the training course. Yeah. So the competence area facilitating learning has several elements, and now you know already them. You saw them in the objectives, you saw them in the program. So it has supporting learners in identifying and meeting their learning needs. And when you click Start Self-Assessment, the field will appear that will ask you to provide self-assessment. How do you see yourself, this competence? And there are five elements in the scale. Is it a big development need for you to deal with the needs of your trainees? Is there a development need? Are you competent in this? Maybe it's your strength, or maybe it's even an exceptional strength. Now, sometimes it's not so easy to define like where you are in supporting learners and meeting their needs. Like, are you good at it or not so much? So in the platform, when you click on Show Criteria, you will see indicators of the competence. So it's like smaller pieces, and it can be a piece of knowledge, it can be a skill, it can be an attitude. And there, next to each of those, you will have three options. So let's say one of the indicators of supporting learners is about feeling empathy with the learner and understanding what the learner needs and the perspective where the learner is. Yeah, one of the principles is meeting where learners are. So when you do the self-assessment, you will have three choices. No action is required, meaning you are totally fine with your skill, or needs development, or highlight as your strength. And that's how you go through each criteria. Yeah. So in total, we're talking about, if I'm not wrong, 7 competences, and each of those have their own criteria. And that goes for all of these. So active participation, method creation, facilitating group dynamic, managing one's own emotions, creating inspiring learning, and promoting creativity. Yeah. So all boxes will look for you like this: start self-assessment, and when you click on it, the box appears. Yeah, quite straightforward. And for each of those competences, you can add your also personal reflection, like how do you know, or what are the indicators that you say you are competent in this, or maybe that you say development needed. So you can add your reflection to put kind of your own opinion about it. And that will be the first step. That will be self-assessment. We don't ask yet to collect feedback from others, even though the platform allows doing that as a next step. But let's start from a small steps there from the self-assessment. So that's how it goes. And yeah, you will see all the areas there. And once you start working on this competence area, you will notice that there will be a visual representation where you are. So it will calculate kind of average of that competence area. And this is a progress bar. It will show how many competences you manage to self-assess. Yeah. And then in the future, maybe you will decide to self-assess other competence areas. You can even do it before this training, but we're asking you to focus only on this one for the time being. Yeah, you don't have to do all of them at the moment, because that's also quite a lot of self-assessment work that you need to put into it. So these are the major things about ETS, particular competence of facilitating learning, and also the platform of self-assessment.